This video is sponsored by the M6 motorway. I want you to picture this for a moment. Myself, my mum and my sister were all heading to Blackpool. My mum and my sister were going to drop me off at Blackpool Pleasure Beach so I could go in there and hang around with my mates, while they were going to make their way to Lytham St Anne's, which for those who aren't aware is a little seaside resort 5 or 10 minutes down the coast. Now earlier that morning some sort of truck or lorry overturned on the M6, meaning that some sort of substance was squirted all over the place and the motorway had to be closed between junctions 31 and 32, which you need to go past if you're going up to Blackpool. And as a result of that, it took a lot longer to get to Blackpool than it should have done because we had to go on a massive detour to get there. Josh and Danielle, who I was supposed to be meeting up with, were travelling up separately in their whip, so they also hit all the chaos, and it just got to a point where they would have got there so late it wouldn't have been worth it. Now, for those who aren't aware, I am visually impaired. I've suffered with sight loss since birth, therefore I can't navigate Blackpool Pleasure Beach on my own and go on rides, etc. In order to do that, I need a carer with me who could either be a friend or a family member. So at this point you might be asking, well, why didn't you just get your mum and your sister to go on park with you? And you know what, I'll give you a couple of seconds to think about it and comment down below. Yes, my mum could have got a carer's ticket to come in with me, which Pleasure Beach call an essential companion ticket, which I am entitled to and do have supporting evidence for. However, my sister on the other hand is not a fan of rides and therefore does not have a season pass, meaning we would have had to have paid the full on-the-door price of almost £50, which simply just isn't feasible. Those of you who are active on Twitter will be aware that over the past couple of years, Pleasure Beach have been getting a lot of stick for how quiet the park has been, and this story I have just told you is a prime example of why that's the case. Back in the day, pre-COVID, Pleasure Beach used to offer an entry pass in which non-riders could pay a small fee of around £5 or £10 just to walk around the park. It doesn't take an experienced data analyst or mathematician to understand how this would have dramatically increased Pleasure Beach's profits, by giving those who aren't a fan of rides the opportunity to still enjoy the park while still pumping money to it, and likely being the deciding factor of whether some families chose to visit Pleasure Beach or not. Moreover, guests who did choose to purchase entry passes as opposed to full park entry had the option to purchase individual ride tickets, which could be used to gain admission to rides and attractions on an individualised basis, essentially allowing those who aren't a fan of rides or only want to do a limited number of rides to do so at a limited cost. Understandably, to help limit capacity as much as possible, when the COVID-19 pandemic hit, Pleasure Beach removed the non-rider and individual ride ticket options, and as things currently stand in 2023, those options haven't been reinstated, and I simply cannot understand why. Fast forward back to 1997, when there was no full park entry option whatsoever and everything was pay per ride. The iconic Blackpool Pleasure Beach BBC TV documentary was being filmed and the park was absolutely thriving with 15,000 guests per day.
Come on, for God's sake! Get this bloody thing back.
No big queues, because big queues don't spend money. We've got a lot of people here and we have an opportunity to make a lot of money.
It's clear that at this time the park were making an absolute fortune, leading to very frequent investment. Now I know that times have changed significantly since then, and with that people's spending habits have also. But it's evident that a business model like that still works in this modern day. You only have to look at vlogs from pre-COVID times when the park still had this hybrid approach implemented, where you could either buy full park, unlimited rides, admission, or an entry pass, and it would be absolutely rammed without fail in the summer months. Don't get me wrong, the park did okay in 2020 and 2021 when UK staycations were very common due to the COVID-19 travel restrictions, but over the past couple of years the park simply hasn't been busy enough, and this has got to be the reason why. Now I'm probably going to have a load of Alton Towers fanboys in the comments being like, nah man, that ain't it at all. Pleasure Beach's rides are just bad compared to Alton Towers, man, you know. Alton Towers can manage with only having full park entry options, but Pleasure Beach can't because it's just that bad. But just stop right there and think about that for a minute. Alton Towers, along with the UK's other theme and amusement parks that could be considered as major, are owned by the Merlin Entertainments company, which are one of the largest entertainment companies in the world. They are naturally going to have a lot less trouble convincing people to visit. Pleasure Beach, on the other hand, is a much smaller family-owned business that has a lot less income to spend on things such just marketing, and we all know how bad Pleasure Beach marketing is, in order to attract people to visit. Therefore, a business model that Merlin Entertainments could get away with implementing isn't necessarily going to work here. We've also got to consider the location of these parks. Generally speaking, UK theme and amusement parks, particularly Alton Towers, are located in small villages and rural areas where there's little competition from other tourist attractions. Blackpool Pleasure Beach, on the other hand, is located in a seaside town and is surrounded by other competition. You've got all the Merlin Midway attractions such as the Blackpool Tower, Blackpool Dungeons, Sea Life, and Madame Two Swords. Over the past 2 years, there's been many busy days in Blackpool where the Sandcastle water park's been sold out, the beaches have been thriving, the town centre's been hustling and bustling, but Blackpool Pleasure Beach has been absolutely dead. Anyone who's watched the Blackpool Pleasure Beach 1997 BBC documentary will be aware that it is no secret that free entry to Blackpool Pleasure Beach can bring with it some antisocial behaviour. However, I think it is absolutely vital that the park bring back their entry pass system to ensure that their profits are at the absolute maximum they can be. It is really sad to see the park continuously stripping back with things they've been proud of in the past, such as their WOW weekends in February and March, as well as their late night riding events, presumably because of how bad this situation has got. And days when there are late night openings really are the best times to go and visit Blackpool Pleasure Beach, which is why you should go and watch this video on the right side of your screen. And for more things theme park related in the UK and beyond, make sure you click the icon in the centre of your screen to subscribe.